Fear is an invisible jailer. Its chains make no noise, but they weigh heavy as iron. It infiltrates the mind, erecting walls where once there were paths. Have you ever wondered how many doors you left unopened because fear whispered that it was too dangerous? Fear acts like a hacker of your mind. It installs a silent program called What If? What if I fail? What if they laugh at me? What if I'm not good enough? Little by little, you stop being the pilot of your life and become just a passenger. From childhood, fear learns to whisper in your ear, telling stories of danger and failure. It says it's better not to try, that the risk is too great, that the fall will be fatal. And so, bit by bit, without noticing, you become a prisoner of an unseen tormentor. Fear doesn't need bars to keep you captive. It feeds on doubts, on what-ifs, on ghosts of the past, and uncertainties of the future. It wears disguises. Sometimes it seems like prudence, sometimes caution, other times even love. But deep down, it is just fear. But what if I told you those chains were never real? What do you do when you realize you're shackled? The first key is to see the bars. To recognize that fear is not a sentence, but a test. That your freedom was never locked away. It has always been waiting for the moment you decide to break those invisible chains and step into the unknown, where true life happens. The theater of illusion. Fear is a master of illusion. It places you center stage in a dark theater where the voices of your worst nightmares echo. And what if I told you that these monsters, which seem so terrifying, are merely projections of your own mind? This isn't just poetry. Scientists have proven that our brains react to imagined fear the same way they react to real fear. In other words, what you fear might not even exist, but your body suffers as if it were true. So, how do you tear down this theater of illusions? The answer lies in your courage to turn on the lights. If fear is a master of illusion, then it is also a flawless theater director, and science has begun to unmask its tricks. Studies in neuroscience and cognitive psychology show that our brains do not clearly distinguish between real danger and imagined danger. When fear takes control, it dims the lights of reason and sets a stage where failure seems inevitable, echoing voices that say you're not capable. It knows its script by heart. It manipulates your most painful memories, amplifies your insecurities, and distorts reality until small challenges seem like insurmountable threats. And then, when everything is set, it places you center stage. Not to shine, but to tremble before an invisible audience of your worst nightmares, as if all eyes were on your mistakes and limitations. But here's the secret fear doesn't want you to discover. This horror show is just a play of shadows. Fear uses tricks of light and sound to deceive you. But the moment you turn on the lights of consciousness and question this performance, the monsters vanish, and you realize there was never a real audience judging you, only your own reflection distorted by the lens of fear. Fear knows your every weakness, every open wound. It whispers from the wings, making you believe the danger is greater than it is. It uses shadows to project monsters onto the walls of your consciousness, making small challenges seem like insurmountable threats. But there's a secret fear it doesn't want you to know. This theater is just a trick of light and shadow. The monsters it conjures are made of smoke. The chains it makes you feel are just wind. You can, at any moment, turn on the lights, cross the stage, and exit this horror show. Fear has no power beyond what you grant it. It can shout, it can stage tragedies, it can even make you doubt yourself. But the curtain can always fall, and when it does, you'll see there was never anything there but illusion. Real stories of overcoming fear. Let me share some real stories that show how ordinary people turn their fear into fuel for success. Mary Silk, a 45-year-old teacher, had a paralyzing fear of public speaking. Her hands would tremble just thinking about presenting to more than 5 people. But when the opportunity arose to give lectures on inclusive education, something she loved deeply, she decided to face her fear. She started by recording videos at home, then speaking to small groups until she could lecture to hundreds of people. Today, she impacts thousands of educators with her work and says, "Fear is still there, but now it sits in the audience while I command stage." John Sanders was a successful executive who, at 35, dreamed of starting his own business. The fear of losing financial stability paralyzed him. For 3 years, he saved money and planned his exit, but always found an excuse to delay the decision. It was when his 7-year-old son said, "Dad, you always tell us to follow our dreams, but why don't you follow yours?" Those simple words were the spark. John started his business on the side, working weekends until he felt secure enough to make the transition. Today, his company employs 50 people, and he helps other entrepreneurs overcome their fears. Oliver Moulton lost 80% of his vision after an accident. The fear of never being independent again consumed him, but instead of giving in to despair, he decided to turn his limitation into strength. He learned Braille, adapted to assistive technologies, and today is one of the leading activists for the rights of visually impaired people in the country. "Fear told me I was broken," he says, "but I discovered I was just transforming into a stronger version of myself." And there's the story of Jack Harris, a 68-year-old man who had never left the United States due to a fear of flying. After losing his wife, he realized that fear had kept him from fulfilling many shared dreams. He decided to honor her memory by facing this fear. He started with short flights, using breathing techniques he learned in therapy. Last year, he took his first international trip, a month-long journey through Europe alone. "Every time I board a plane, I still feel fear," he says, "but now I know fear doesn't have to stop me from living." These stories show us that fear is not a final sentence. It is just a chapter in our story, and we have the power to write the next. Each of these individuals discovered that the secret is not to eliminate fear, but to learn to act despite it. The whisper of fear. Fear does not shout, it whispers. It slithers through your mind, planting doubts before you even take the first step. Have you noticed that the most successful people also feel fear? The difference is that they do not obey it. The key is not to eliminate fear, but to learn to act despite it. Fear may follow you, but it can never be the driver. And what if I told you there's a simple trick to weaken it? Fear slithers through your mind like a cunning serpent, coiling around your thoughts before you even notice. It doesn't need to shout or use brute force to control you. It just needs to whisper doubts at the right moment, plant insecurities in the right places, and paint scenarios of disaster before you take the first step. It convinces you that every new attempt is too risky, that every unknown path hides a trap. And without realizing it, you start to obey. You hesitate before opportunities, not because you don't want them, but because something inside you says it might be better to wait a little longer. You retreat from challenges, justifying your paralysis with well-crafted excuses. "I'm not ready yet. Maybe another day. What if I fail?" You hide when you should advance, and fear, with its velvety voice, convinces you that it's protecting you. It wears the mask of prudence, of caution, even of self-love. After all, wouldn't it be better to avoid pain? But that is the great lie. Fear doesn't want to save you. It wants to imprison you. And the only way to break this spell is to face it head-on, to rip off its mask and see its true nature. Fear is nothing more than an echo of your beliefs, a reflection of thoughts that you can rewrite. It has no substance of its own, no body, no real power over you, except what you grant it. The secret lies in action. When you act despite fear, it loses strength. When you take a step forward, even with trembling legs, it dissolves. The more you challenge your own limitations, the more you realize that the chains that seemed unbreakable were never real. Fear may walk beside you, but will never again decide your destiny. The silent battle. Fear and courage duel within you. One tries to pull you back, the other tries to push you forward. What would happen if every time you felt fear, you saw it as a challenge instead of a barrier? Fear grows when you retreat and diminishes when you advance. Every time you act, even while trembling, courage gains a little more ground. So, which side will you take in this battle? Will you let these two invisible warriors continue their duel within you? One shrouded in shadows, whispering fears, and the other illuminated by courage, calling you to advance? Fear tries to hold you back, dragging you into the past, displaying every scenario of failure your mind can create. But courage, even wounded, even tired, stands firm. It doesn't shout, doesn't impose, doesn't force. It just waits. It waits for you to see it, to realize that despite the uncertainties, there's always a path forward. It doesn't pretend the challenges don't exist, but it reminds you of something essential. You are greater than them. Sometimes, it seems like fear is winning. It is cunning, knowing how to hide behind reasonable excuses, how to disguise itself as prudence, how to infiltrate your dreams until they seem impossible. It makes you believe you're not strong enough, not capable, that the world out there is too big for someone like you. But courage never gives up. It doesn't shout, doesn't impose, doesn't force. It just waits. It waits for you to realize that fear only has power when you feed it. That every time you retreat, it grows, but every time you advance, it shrinks. And then one day, you decide to move. You decide to take a step despite the fear, even with your heart racing, even with uncertainty burning in your chest. And in that instant, something magical happens. Fear dissolves like mist in the sun. You realize that the battle was never between fear and courage. The real struggle was always between who you are and who fear tried to make you believe you were. And now, finally, you have chosen the light, the key to freedom. The chains of fear seem strong, but they are made of smoke. They only exist because you believed in them. And what if you were holding the key all along? Neuroscience has proven that our brains can be reprogrammed. You don't have to live as a hostage to old fears. You can change your story. You can set yourself free. The question now is, will you use the key or continue pretending to be captive? If you still believe that fear keeps you chained, then it's time to look at your own hands. Because the key has always been there. For years, you carried an invisible weight, convinced you were captive, that uncontrollable forces determined your destiny. But look again, observe closely. Those chains that seemed indestructible are, in reality, as fragile as smoke. They never had the power you imagined. They only existed because you believed in them. And at any moment, you could decide to let them go. The soul imprisoned by fear forgets its own greatness. It forgets it was born to soar, to explore, to launch itself into the vastness of life without the need for absolute certainties. Fear made you doubt your strength, but it was always there, latent, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And that moment is now. Free yourself. Take a deep breath and realize that every fear you carry is just a story that can be rewritten. Every barrier that seems insurmountable is, in reality, an illusion. You no longer need permission to be free. You no longer need to hide behind excuses or wait for someone to rescue you. The door to the cage is open. What keeps you from crossing it is not fear itself, but the habit of fearing it. Take a step, then another, and before you know it, you will feel the wind of freedom on your face, reminding you that life has always been waiting for you to have the courage to live it. The power of action. The only way to overcome fear is to act. Fear paralyzes you, but action sets you free. You don't need courage to start. You just need to start, and courage will follow. Take a step. It doesn't have to be big. It could be a yes where there was once a no. It could be an attempt where there was once resignation. But take the step. And now, what will you do? Because in the end, the choice has always been yours. Action is the most powerful tool to overcome fear. When you act, you demonstrate that fear is not stronger than you. You show that you are willing to face your fears and overcome them. Action doesn't have to be grandiose. It can be a small step, a simple gesture. But it must be a deliberate step, a conscious gesture. It must be an act of courage, an act of determination. When you act, you begin to realize that fear is not stronger than you. You begin to see that you are capable of overcoming your fears and achieving your goals. And that is liberating. Action is also contagious. When you act, you inspire others to act. You show that it is possible to overcome fear and achieve freedom. And that is a gift to others and to yourself. Fear is not your enemy. It is just a test. And the only response to fears is your action. Thus, you can break the chains of fear and achieve freedom. You can live a full life, a life filled with purpose and meaning. The key to overcoming fear is action. You must act. You must do something. You must take a step, even if it's a small one. You must show that fear is not stronger than you. Remember that fear is just an illusion. It is just a story that you can rewrite. It is just a barrier that you can overcome. You are capable of overcoming fear and achieving freedom. You are capable of living a full life, a life filled with purpose and meaning. And now it's your turn. It's your turn to act, your turn to overcome fear. It's your turn to achieve freedom and live a full life. What will you do? What will you choose? The journey of self-discovery. Overcoming fear is a journey of self-discovery. It is a journey of discovering your own strengths and weaknesses. It is a journey of learning and growth. When you begin to overcome fear, you start to know yourself better. You start to understand your own fears and insecurities. You start to understand what motivates you and what holds you back. Self-awareness is crucial to overcoming fear. You must be aware of your own thoughts and emotions. You must be aware of your own limitations and possibilities. When you have self-awareness, you can begin to work on your own growth. You can start to identify the patterns of thought and behavior that hold you back from achieving your goals. You can start to develop new patterns of thought and behavior that help you achieve your goals. The journey of self-discovery is a continuous journey. It is a journey that requires dedication and perseverance. It is a journey that requires you to be willing to learn and grow. The importance of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a powerful tool for overcoming fear. It is a practice that helps develop self-awareness and reduce stress and anxiety. Mindfulness is a practice of being present in the moment without judgment or expectation. It is a practice of observing your own thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to develop the ability to observe your own fears and insecurities without being overwhelmed by them. You begin to develop the ability to deal with stress and anxiety more effectively. Mindfulness is a simple yet powerful practice. It can be done anywhere, anytime. It can help reduce stress and anxiety and increase self-awareness and self-esteem. The journey of transformation. Overcoming fear is a journey of transformation. It is a journey of change and growth. It is a journey that requires you to be willing to let go of your fears and insecurities and move closer to your goals and dreams. Transformation is a continuous process. It requires dedication and perseverance. It requires you to be willing to learn and grow. When you embark on the journey of transformation, you begin to realize that fear is not an insurmountable barrier. You begin to see that fear is just an illusion, a story that you can rewrite. The journey of transformation is a journey of self-discovery. It is a journey of self-awareness and self-growth. It is a journey that requires you to be willing to let go of your fears and insecurities and move closer to your goals and dreams. Fear chains you, but the key has always been in your hands. For years, you carried an invisible weight, believing you were captive, believing that greater forces held your destiny. But look closely, those chains are fragile. They only exist because you believed in them. The soul imprisoned by fear forgets its own greatness. It forgets it was born to soar, to explore, to launch itself into the vastness of life without the need for absolute certainties. Fear made you doubt your strength, but it was always there, latent, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And that moment is now. Free yourself. Take a deep breath and realize that every fear you carry is just a story that can be rewritten. Every barrier that seems insurmountable is, in reality, an illusion. You no longer need permission to be free. You no longer need to hide behind excuses or wait for someone to rescue you. The door to the cage is open. What keeps you from crossing it is not fear itself, but the habit of fearing it. Take a step, then another, and before you know it, you will feel the wind of freedom on your face, reminding you that life has always been waiting for you to have the courage to live it. When I was younger, I had a paralyzing fear of public speaking. My voice would tremble, my hands would sweat, and I avoided any situation that required me to express myself in front of others. This fear kept me from seizing many opportunities, both in school and at work. But one day, I realized I couldn't let this fear control my life. I decided to face it head on. I started with small steps, speaking in smaller groups, participating in classroom debates, and eventually enrolling in a public speaking course. It was a gradual process, but each small victory gave me more confidence. Today, I stand before you, sharing my story. I still feel a knot in my stomach before every presentation, but I've learned that fear doesn't have to paralyze me. In fact, it can be a sign that I'm about to do something important. I want you to know that you are not alone. We all have our fears, but we also have the ability to overcome them. If I can do it, so can you. Let's embark on this journey of transformation together. Key points to remember. Fear does not define your destiny. As seen in the stories of Mary, John, Oliver, and Jack, it is possible to act even when feeling fear. Overcoming fear happens in small steps. Each person started with gradual actions before achieving significant milestones. Fear can be transformed into motivation. It's not about eliminating fear completely, but learning to use it to your advantage. Real-life stories inspire us. Ordinary people have achieved their dreams by facing various fears. Action is more powerful than paralysis. All the shared stories show that taking the first step, even with fear, is the secret to transformation. Remember, fear is part of the journey, but it doesn't have to be your final destination. You are stronger than you imagine, and every small step counts toward your dreams. Now, it's your turn to embark on the journey of overcoming fear. It's your turn to let go of your fears and insecurities and move closer to your goals and dreams. It's your turn to transform and grow. Overcoming fear is a journey of self-discovery, transformation, and growth. It requires dedication and perseverance, but it is rewarded with liberation and fulfillment. Remember that fear is just an illusion, a story that you can rewrite. Remember that you are capable of overcoming fear and achieving your goals and dreams. Now, it's your turn to embark on the journey of overcoming fear. It's your turn to let go of your fears and insecurities and move closer to your goals and dreams. It's your turn to transform and grow. What will you do? What will you choose? What have you been avoiding out of fear? What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What fear story have you been telling yourself that might not be true? Share in the comments. Which fear will you challenge today? Let's transform fear into freedom together. If this message resonated with you, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Want to dive deeper into this topic? Check the first pinned comment for a link to an exclusive ebook that will help you turn fear into action. And don't stop here. Choose one of the videos on the screen and continue your journey of self-discovery. See you in the next video.